Good evening. I'm Andrew Valentine, and you're listening to Off the Couch. Tonight's going to be solo. Not going to be joined by Connor tonight, and the reasoning for that is our episodes are usually scheduled for Fridays at around 4 p.m. We do our recording, and then we upload them by 7 p.m. on Saturday. I have to leave early Friday evening, and so the 4 p.m. time slot wouldn't work. So I figured while I'm sitting here waiting for my radio show, it's about 7:23 Thursday night, I figured I'd make this podcast. We're bi-weekly. We skipped last weekend. It was also Halloween weekend. I'm not going to, after classes, I'm not going to come here to the podcast. I got other stuff I got to do and get ready for. But, yeah. So the name change is something that I wanted to really just start off with really quickly. I know it's called Off the Couch now, and the reasoning it's moved from Off the Record to Off the Couch is because we have a new radio show. And that radio show is actually on air right now by a guy named Sam. His radio show is called On the Record, and it is a variety music show much similar to mine, and that's from 7 to 8 p.m. on Thursdays. So make sure you tune into his show. I believe he's on his second week, and so far he's doing a really good job. But that's the reason for the name change. I'm not going to make him change the name of his radio show. I feel like Off the Couch fits my vibe a little more. Off the Record was kind of a throwaway name that I was having kind of for filler, and we have this name now. And the logo will be soon updated on all streaming platforms and as well as Castos, so watch out for that soon. So today is it's been cold. It's been really cold. I think it's supposed to start snowing around Monday, and we're gonna have some really low lows, and I'm really excited for that. And I will say I'm really excited for that because I am a winter guy. And if any of you were in Oswego last year, you will know that it can snow here. We had about, I don't know, what is it, a 3 or 4 day cancellation of all classes by the college itself, not even by individual professors. And that was because of just how bad the snow was. The snow was so unbelievably bad that, parking lots, I don't know how many people I had to help dig out of their parking spots. My girlfriend, my buddy Aaron, not a very fun time, but I will say I do miss the snow. The snow is what honestly makes the campus. Same thing with the lake, and of course that's where we end up getting all that snow from. But I believe Monday or late or early next week, we're supposed to see some flurries. Very exciting for me. I'm a skier. I've been skiing for 9 years, and I haven't gone very recently. The last time I went skiing was last year. It was actually my last day of work. So I work at West Genesee Buildings and Grounds over the summer and the winters, and I do kind of a lot of maintenance work, and my last day for the winter, it was a Friday, and I believe it was sometime in February, or no, it would have been late January, because it would have been about a week before we had gone back to school for the second semester. And so I had gotten out of work at about 3:30. I went and gotten a haircut, and of course, in the middle of January, it gets dark at around 1 in the afternoon, and so we had this plan. We're gonna go to Labrador Mountain because as it happened, there was it was like the entire night for 12 hours of skiing, rentals, ski pass, and anything else was like $6. It was so cheap. It was unbelievably cheap. It was either like $6 or $12. I don't remember, or maybe it was 20. I think it was 20. It was some ridiculously low price for a ski lift, and we had gone to Labrador, which is about 20 minutes from Song Mountain, because they're under the same partnership. And we went there, and by God, I have never seen a more packed ski resort. Maybe Bristol on like a really nice day, but the lines were intersecting each other, and I stayed in the car, and we had about 6 people. A couple buddies of mine went inside because they needed rentals, and they said, "Hey, guys, have any rentals?" No, all out, completely out of everything. And so we called Song Mountain. And they happened to have about nobody there. It was like no one there. And it was our blessing. And of course, I was a little more excited to go to lab. I hadn't been there in a while. Song is a little bit of it's a step down in terms of difficulty. The trails are still really nice, and it was a really snowy night. It was cold. It was so cold. And we got there. There had maybe 50 people in the lodge, which is not a lot for a ski resort, especially on like a Friday night with a deal like that. I think everybody had just taken advantage of Labrador and went there instead. But we got food. We got a lot of skiing. We got about 6 hours of skiing. It was, or what is it? It was like, it was from 6 to 12. So I only skied until about 11:20 because I had gotten so tired. I was so out of it. And where I work, I wake up at about, I don't know, 5:30. So for me, I had been up from 5:30 in the morning all the way till about 11:30 at that point. And so I tapped out. I was so tired. I was so cold. My head started to hurt. I was done. And it was also the first week that I was able to kind of do things. I had gotten my wisdom teeth taken out prior. And it was kind of the first time that I was able to go out and kind of, do any kind of straining or anything like that. And it ended up being a really fun time because my nerves were put to rest. I was so worried about, dry socket when I had my wisdom teeth taken out. I had them out on January 6th. And I was so ungodly worried about getting dry socket. And I don't think I ate solid food for about 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half. And even on that, half of that week, I ate like ravioli and macaroni that I still was so nervous about eating. And then I think by that point I was a lot more comfortable. And so it got to the point at the night where buddies of mine, they wanted to keep skiing because this is like the millionth time they had gone in the season. I couldn't go because I was busy with work. I had went and visited my girlfriend one of the weekends, and honestly, I didn't have a lot of time. But it was beautiful. Beautiful night. I took some great pictures. I was very warm too. We had gone to Dick's and we had I spent about $80. I had a gift card. I spent about $80 on a very nice pair of insulated gloves because that was always my issue. I'd go on the mountain. Everything else would be nice. I'd have my snow pants. I'd have my nice winter coat and windbreaker. My hands would be, 2 minutes away from frostbite. And that was because I had gloves that I didn't know had holes in them. And they were really old gloves too. I think I'd borrowed them from my dad or something like that. And I remember, being, wow, my hands are sweating. I remember thinking to myself, I have to take my gloves off, and my hands are sweating so bad. But honestly, I didn't end up having to, go back into the lodge and warm up my hands by the fire like I've had to previous times. But it was a good night. And I'm really excited to go back skiing. And with this winter weather coming up, I'm hoping over this break, because I don't really know what I'm going to do. If I'm going to go back to work or if I'm going to try and go for an internship. I've been talking to a lot of people. I've been put in contact with a guy from WSYR. I've been given his information, and this was through an alumni day that we had last Saturday. I believe it was last Saturday, and we had a lot of alumni come in. They would pay for like different slots on the radio. We had that going on. We had it was really the opening of the new Hewitt building. That's what it was marketed as. All of this facilities, like the podcasting room, all of the other like film studios and news studios, because they previously weren't available to students before, and now they are. And so that was kind of like the grand opening, because the building was already open. But I'd say it was the grand opening of the facilities. My job during that day, I was in the podcasting room with my good friend Raina, who is our productions director here at WNYO, and her and I we had guests come in. We had a four mic setup, and so we would have two people at a time come in and out, and we had some great conversations. We had a couple of alumni come in, we had some professors come in, some students come in. I posted it a little while ago on my Instagram. I'm thinking of posting it on my LinkedIn or YouTube page somewhere, but we made like a lot of money from that event, all in the alumni fund, over $1,000, I believe, and that is really huge for us. We really got on the radar with that. I talked to a lot of alumni. They were really happy that we were kind of continuing their journey with what they started, and it was a really nice thing to see, coming full circle for a lot of people, because for a lot of these guys, Hewitt was the location of the radio station. Right now it's in Murano. It used to be in the basement of Hewitt. And we have a lot of old photos from that old studio. And of course, once MCC was renovated and it became the new campus center, because it originally was Poucher Hall. I believe it was Poucher was the whole thing, if I'm not incorrect. And they still have Poucher Hall in MCC, but now it's the far side that's closest to Shinneman, like with the language departments and upstairs too with the English department and all that stuff. And when that was renovated, all of the people moved over there. All of the WTOP, they have the Al Roker studio. What else? There's a lot of stuff that moved over there. And then once Hewitt started to become a shell, because everything moved over to MCC, there was nothing left in Hewitt. The bookstore moved out. The bookstore is now in Lanigan. I think it would have been cool if they moved it back to Hewitt, but I understand why they, kind of a lot to, move over. But they moved everything, and then that kind of set the stage. Well, Hewitt's kind of this building that it wasn't rotting, but it was kind of just sitting there without a purpose. I mean, there was stuff to do there, but it was kind of dwindling in the recent years before it was renovated. And it's a really good thing that they did. It's really unfortunate, though, that it took so long, because I remember coming in as a freshman, and I remember seeing Hewitt still being constructed, and I was told that it's going to be done by your sophomore fall semester. Was not done by then. And I think there were a lot of people wondering if it was going to in fact be done by this fall semester. And of course it did happen to be done. It did. But I think there was a lot of doubt. But a lot of that delay was because of COVID, because they started it in 2021, and a lot of the money was kind of short, I believe. And it's kind of the same reason that Little Page was never fully renovated or fixed. They had plans to renovate the whole thing, and they ended up doing so with Pathfinder. They ended up renovating the inside, and they were supposed to fix a lot of issues with Little Page, but they ended up not doing that, because I believe their last construction project on it was supposed to be like 2022 to 2023. It was supposed to be done by my fall semester, my first semester here, but it was not. And I think as the result of the whole situation with the mold in Johnson, and all of the freshmen being moved mostly to West Campus. I live on West Campus in Onondaga Hall, and all of these people are moved in Cayuga and Oneida. That's like 200 more people moving over here, and we have one dining hall. And that's bad. It gets really bad. It gets, and it's something that they need to start thinking about if they're going to have this long term. I know just recently they made the decision they're going to have Fennell as one of the freshman only dorms, and then they're going to, I think Seneca is going to be the singles only or something like that. And it just makes me wonder, if all these pieces are going to fit together well and if they're going to mesh well. I'm really hoping they do, and obviously the best of luck to the school because obviously, it's kind of a bad card all around. Everyone's kind of dealt a bad card, and that's just kind of the way it is. But moving on from the school stuff, I'm getting too into it. I guess we were on the topic of concerts last time, and because we had just had our fall concert, and that was our first fall concert, and so we're having another one, and it's November 15th. It's still in the same spot, Laker Lounge, Murano Campus Center. Doors open at 6:30. Show begins at 7. We're gonna have Quantifier, Jerry Biggs' world famous band, and Debatably Stable. Tickets are $10. They're available at the door. It's cash. We're not going to do online. And it was really interesting how this happened. My manager, Ben Goldblatt, he was reached out to by these bands. And it's really interesting, too, to preface, we were trying to get these bands previously, and they were busy, they were booked. And then they reached out to us. And initially, we had to say no, but then they were willing to work with us. And now we have these three big bands who I'm very confident will draw in a large audience. I'm not saying anything negatively about the previous four bands we had, but in reality, these guys have a little more, they're a little more known. Like, I think Quantifier's opening for a lot bigger bands now. And, I mean, obviously, amazing that they have the opportunity to do that. Wonderful. And I'm glad that they were, so adamant on coming here. And we're excited about it. We've made posters, we've made flyers. We're gonna really hammer this advertising down in the next couple weeks. It's something that is going to put a big mark on WNYO. Just the ability to do these concerts and have this kind of notoriety now that we can put this stuff on, and it's like because ultimately we're doing this ourselves. We're doing it ourselves, and it's our planning, it's our money, it's our expertise, and it's our charisma. It's our personality that's drawing these bands in, and we're making a good track record, and I think that's really good for us. Speaking of concerts, I was gonna go off on a tangent a little bit about some concerts. I mean, the last one I saw was Metallica. It's funny enough, I'm wearing a Metallica shirt right now under my suit. And I'm wearing a suit right now because tonight on a radio show is jazz night. It's jazz swing and the best. That's what I'm calling it. I was initially just going to narrow it down to jazz, but that was kind of too narrow. And I wanted to do swing. I wanted to do a couple other, because I got Sammy Davis Jr. in there. I've got Seth MacFarlane in there. I've got Dean Martin. And those songs I put in by those three aren't necessarily jazz. They're more swing, and they're kind of, golden oldie stuff. And I wanted to have that in there too. I didn't want to narrow it down. But my guests and I made the decision that we're all going to wear suits. We're all going to wear some kind of nice articles of clothing. Even if people can't see us, I want it to be like that, just for the vibe, just for the feeling. I feel like a little more executive. I feel a little more old when I wear a suit. I feel like it matches. But Metallica, I think they just went to Australia. And it was funny because for their Halloween, it was I think it was on Halloween they had a performance, and James, he came out in a couple costumes. One, he did like Harvester of Sorrow in like a kangaroo costume. It was kind of funny. I really hope they come back to Syracuse in my lifetime. Obviously, they're 60s now, and that time is dwindling. That time for concert going, it's gonna kind of shrink. I mean, I know they've said that they kind of want to, run it until they can't, sing till they drop. And part of me wants them to, part of me doesn't, only because obviously touring takes a toll on artists, and especially if they plan on having another album afterwards. I think they are, but especially if they plan on having any subsequent albums, then they got to stay healthy. James's voice, I think when he takes time off of touring, I think that's kind of Metallica's huge thing, is they tour a little too much. I think they haven't had a break in 3 years. They've been touring since 23, and they were touring prior to that in 2022. And I think the 2022 one, a lot of that was making up hype for the new album, but a lot of that was just kind of performing. They had some stuff in 22. They had a bunch of stuff in 21. I think in 21 in December, they had like, what was it, the 40th? They had some anniversary, and they played a lot of songs they don't usually play. They didn't do a lot in 2020, and I think that was also when James had just gotten out of rehab, because after S&M 2, he had gone to rehab again. He was drinking, and it was showing that he wasn't really doing the best. So we went to rehab, and he was back after a while. And in 2020, and I think that rehab, it saved his voice, and I think not touring and kind of being inside, it really saved his voice. I think he is an old dude, and he's got to save that. That's just my opinion. But let's see, November 6th. That's what today is. We got about, I don't know, 5 shows until the end of the semester. And I know, so tonight's jazz, and I guess I will reveal my last show. It will be a 2-hour segment it'll be called Guy Under a Tree. It's my Christmas special, if that doesn't make it apparent enough. And it's going to be about 2 hours. During finals week, I'll most likely do it on Thursday if I don't have a final, at 9:30 the following morning. I would hope not. Really hope not. And we're also going to do what's called Holiday-thon. We're going to have it kind of like Radiothon and Vinyl-thon, which I do plan to be involved in both of those next semester. I was involved in a Radiothon last semester. Logan and I, the way we did it is it was like 3. His was 3 to no, his was 4 to 5, or it was something like that. Or it was like I think his was 4 to 5, and mine was 5 to 6, and it was 2 1-hour slots. And so I was a guest on his slot, and then he was a guest on my slot. Because when it's about 4 in the morning, it gets lonely. Not everybody wants to be sitting in a studio by themselves. I know I don't. I like having people there, especially during my radio shows when I'm live. I like having the banter to go off of. It's a little different when I'm podcasting because I can just kind of talk about whatever. I have some things written down, but a lot of this is just coming off of my brain. But we're gonna have a holiday-thon, and that's going to be most likely the last week of classes. It'll probably be like the Friday into Saturday. It's gonna be the same, 24 hours. We're gonna have the one of the last hockey games along with that, with like the teddy bear toss, and that's, I'm gonna talk to Derek. We're gonna have some cool interaction with the hockey game and stuff like that. And it'll ultimately be really cool. It'll ultimately be really cool. We'll hopefully set this as a stage. We're gonna try and do it every year. I have 2 more Christmases left here, so hopefully we'll have this done next year too. That's what my hope is. And I think the goal, what we want for Holiday-thon, is it's not a Christmas-thon. There are so many holidays in December, even that leak into November and January a little bit. There's Chinese New Year, there's Christmas, there's pagan holidays, there's Hanukkah, there's so many, and it makes me wonder. Like I really want to have like a good amount of people, but it makes me wonder. It's kind of getting into the last week of classes. It's Christmas time, your holiday time. People are going home, so I'm hoping we'll have a good turnout. Sorry, if I was becoming a little spotty there with my talking, my buddy Joe had sent me something. I wanted to make sure it wasn't something too important because he never usually texts me. Anyway, yeah. So Holiday-thon could be a big hit. Hoping it is. We'll see what happens. Halloween was pretty fun. That was last weekend, and yeah. So yeah. Correction. The alumni event was 2 weekends ago, and Halloween was last weekend. So I was a farmer. No, I was a gardener and a flower with my girlfriend Jenna, and then that was the night 1, and then night 2, I was Dr. House from the show House MD. I'm actually wearing the same suit that I wore. I washed it. Don't worry. I had a cane that I borrowed, and what else? I had my buddy Nolan. I was trying to convince him to do this last year, but he didn't want to do it. We went as House and Wilson. So in the show, if you're not familiar, House is kind of it's a parody of not necessarily a parody, but it's a spin on like Holmes and Watson. House is kind of like he's a goofy but kind of an asshole doctor. But the caveat to that is he's most of the time always right. He's a genius, and he's most of the time always right about what he's diagnosing. And so he's a specialist. And so he gets all of these like infectious disease and weird things that they come to him because he's kind of like the last line. The other doctors can't figure out what's wrong, so they send him to Dr. House. And in the show, Wilson is like his kind of friend. Like, they're good buds, and the play on that they have there is that they're kind of always screwing around with each other. One episode they're being dickish. The other episode, they're good friends, but they have a pretty good dynamic. And so Wilson in the show, he's an oncologist, so he's a cancer doctor, and Wilson is kind of the if you had to put it in a way, Wilson is the angel on your shoulder and House is the devil on your shoulder. If the devil had a cane and he had like a Vicodin addiction in the show for a majority of the seasons actually, and so we ended up doing that. It was a good time. It was a good costume. I didn't really spend a lot of money on Halloween this year, which I'm very thankful for. Last year I kind of went overboard. I was James Hetfield last year for one of the nights, and then my girlfriend and I, we did Remy and Linguini from the movie Ratatouille, and for that I had to buy a whole chef's outfit, so that was kind of expensive, and I also bought a wig and all this other stuff for the James Hetfield costume, but most of the stuff I already had, thankfully. I think I had to buy like armbands too, but that was whatever. And my other friends, what did they go as? We didn't do like anything. We didn't do any huge group thing, to my knowledge. It was kind of like there were a couple duos here and there. Like Nolan and I had our costume. Jenna and I had our costume. My buddy Aaron had his with his girlfriend. My buddy Sammy and my buddy Evan, those two had their own stuff. And we didn't really do, because the year prior we did. Well, I didn't, but a lot of my friends did Mario. They did a bunch of Mario characters. So they had, Mario, Luigi, Waluigi, all that stuff. And that was pretty cool. But I think last Halloween, in terms of what I did, was probably better. I went out a little more. Although I will say, last Halloween sucked because I was sick as a dog. I had some sort of sinus infection. It had turned into a post-nasal drip cough that was just killing me, man. It was bad. But I was all good this year, thankfully. No issues there. And it was a good time. Yeah. Wondering what I'm going to do next year. Hopefully something funny. I don't know. Halloween is like always... ever since I was a kid, Halloween has been something I've always loved. It's been one of my favorite holidays I've probably ever had. Besides Christmas, of course. My least favorite is Easter. And that's just... It's my least favorite time of year. I think January, like late January to... Actually, no, I lied. March to April. My least favorite time. It's cold. The weather can't decide what it wants to be. It's either raining, or it's still snowing, or it's just muddy everywhere, and I can't stand it. I genuinely cannot stand it. Because at that point, the snow melts. It's too warm for snow, but it's not warm enough for everything to come back yet. Except if you're a wasp. I've seen many wasps in the middle of March, in the middle of April. And I'm voice cracking a lot. I'm kind of tired. So, forgive me, please. And the grass is dead. It looks like crap, It's like that really, it's really that brown green color that no one likes. And I don't like it. I can't stand it. But one thing I will say, St. Patrick's Day is fun. It used to be fun because my parents would put around like gold coins like around the lawn or something like that, and I mean, of course I was a lot younger, but this time around, when I'm older, I don't really care for St. Patrick's Day that much. I mean, I'm Irish. I'm very Irish, so I kind of lean into it a little bit. But all in all, that time of year is not really amazing. I mean, May is really where the sun starts to come out more and the vitamin D starts to work its magic, and then I start feeling a lot better. May, June, July, great trio of months. It's the end of school, it's the start of summer. Beautiful. My birthday's in July, so that's also why I included July in there. August, here nor there. August usually signifies as kind of a countdown, and September, October, November, and December are probably the best 4 months out of the whole year. September, you're getting back into the swing of things. October, it's Halloween, it's fall. November is good if the weather is good. I don't really care for Thanksgiving that much. I like the food. It's not really my favorite holiday. There's a break in there, so I guess I kind of got to be appreciative. But November, it depends on the weather. Like right now, it's November 6th. We haven't gotten snow yet. We're about to. And it's very windy. I'd say this is a good November so far. It's been rainy. I think this whole month has been rain so far. It's only 6 days in. But that means with that precipitation, we're going to get a lot of snow. And that's what I'm excited for. In December, obviously what's not to love about December? It's like the holiday opus of the year. And I think it's probably my favorite month. I've always been a winter dude. Ever since I've been little. Winter's been my favorite. I've never liked summer. I like it now because as I grow older, I like being outside. I like going out and doing stuff. And I think, Christmas, New Year's, being off of school. I mean, obviously now I've been working over December break, so that kind of sucks a little of the joy out of it. But I work at a good spot. And one thing I'll say is that for me, the second New Year's is done, like I wake up January 1st, I don't care. Bring me to February. I don't care. Second New Year's is done, you might as well throw me back in school, because what's the point? I'm not waiting for anything. I'm not waiting for any holiday. Maybe Martin Luther King Jr. Day. That's the only holiday, we get a day off from. But other than that, there's really nothing else in January. I mean, just the name itself, January. It's like I don't like it. February, last name's Valentine, Valentine's Day. And last year, we got the majority of our snow in February. We had nothing in December. We had kind of some stuff. But end of January and most of February last year, I think that's when we had our most snow. Especially Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, I was taking Jenna out on a date, and we were going to Southern Fair down in Oswego and down in the town, and it was just flurry, could not see. Obviously, I drove, but it was not a great drive. It was not something I would love to do again, and that's why I stand by, I love to go in the snow, but if I got to drive, it's not my favorite thing. I've had to wake up for work at about, 5:30, and by the time I'm leaving and going to work, the plows have not gotten there yet. So I'm driving, and I'm practically hydroplaning. It's happened to me twice. The first time, I was up, and my dad, I think he was up at the same time. I went to shovel off his truck because I was using that. And he was like, hey, before you go, put it into four-wheel until you get out of the neighborhood. Because they hadn't plowed the neighborhood yet. It was 5 a.m. Okay. Got out of the neighborhood with some struggle. And then I got out into our main road, still not plowed. I pulled up to a stoplight, and ABS activated, and I kind of slid into the intersection a little bit. Luckily, at 5 a.m, no one's really there, but I was able to back up a tad. And luckily, thankfully, the light turned as soon as I got there. It was only maybe 30 seconds, or maybe even 15. until the light changed again. But you just got to be careful. You got to be really careful. I mean, that snow and ice, especially in the morning before it's had the opportunity to melt, not something you want to mess with. Not at all. Just be careful, you know? And that's what I'll say to like all my friends, all my family, and everyone up here in Oswego too. It gets bad up here. Be careful. Don't be stupid. Don't drive stupid. My sister, she had gotten in a car accident. Luckily, she was completely fine. She was on her way to OCC, and she was driving, and she was taking an exit ramp, she was taking an exit ramp to get onto 690, and as it had happened, she kind of slid a little bit, and if it wasn't for the guardrails, she would have been off the exit ramp. So thank God for those exit rails. But her car was totaled. That's all it was. She was completely fine. And it's just the winter, man. The winter. Just got to be really careful. So what time is it? 7:59. How long have we been going for here? I can't tell. It doesn't tell me how long we've been going for. 1,089 bars. That's what it tells me. It goes by bars. I'm using GarageBand to record this. But I think I might as well wrap it up. What I'll do is I'm gonna make sure I do an episode next Friday as well. I'm not gonna because this was such extenuating circumstances, or is it extenuating? I don't remember. One of those words. It was different circumstances than I usually like it to be. And I'd like to talk more with Connor. So I think on Friday I will do another show. Next Friday. And because it's about 8, I got my show in an hour. News just went on. I'm going to go, figure out how I want my set list to go. My set list tonight is just fantastic, by the way. I'm just going to read it off to you guys right now. I have Ain't That a Kick in the Head by Dean Martin, Sadder But Wiser Girl by Seth MacFarlane, Girl from Ipanema, Frank Sinatra, Lover Girl by Leve, I Still Can't Sleep / Cannot Touch Her, it's from Taxi Driver, Blue and Green, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Bill Evans. There's Night Lights from the Gary Mulligan Sextet, the 1965 version, so it's only 3 minutes long instead of 4. Misty, Errol Garner, that's my favorite version of the song. Blue Moon, Oscar Peterson, also my favorite version of the song. I like the instrumentals where it's a little more jazzy piano. In a Sentimental Mood with Duke Ellington and John Coltrane. But Not For Me, the vocal version by Chet Baker. I've Gotta Be Me, Sammy Davis Jr., Cheek to Cheek, Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong, Cry Me River, Julie London, and Naima. Is that it? Naima by John Coltrane. So that is our 15-song set list. Am I going to get to all those songs? Most likely not. My plan, though, is I will kind of shut my mouth a little bit because I tend to talk for a little too long, and I really want to get to a lot of these songs because a lot of them are suggestions from my friends that are also going to be on the show. And I feel like people listening to jazz aren't really going to be wanting to sitting there listening to me talk. I'm not really well-versed in jazz, but I wanted to have this night because I know people who are. It's November, so it's kind of like, people listen to jazz, I feel like, more in the winter time. It's something that you cozy up to a fire and listen to. And I'm just going to try and shut my trap a little bit, I want to at least get to I've Gotta Be Me by Sammy Davis Jr. if I have to cut out. Because most of these songs are like 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I got one that's 5:38, and maybe that one I'll leave till the end. 2 minutes, 30 seconds, 3 minutes. They're under 5 minutes, and we go by 18-minute intervals. And so I just really want to be able to play all the music, and then at the end, I'll leave however much time we have to talk. And who knows how much time that might be. So I actually probably will leave Blue and Green until the very end. I might just write that down right here, or bolden it, or something like that. Because I like talking, but I don't, I want my songs to play, and I don't want to, have these songs go to waste. Because usually I do I think last show, I did, it was, what night was it? It was Metal Night, and that was for my Halloween special. I did two 8-minute songs to begin, and that was kind of boring. And I've kind of realized this, and this is one of the last things I'll say before I wrap it up. Metal as a genre is something that I got into. It started with Metallica, and then it kind of branched off to, other mainstream artists, and I never really got deep down into the discography of, death metal and screamo and stuff like that. As I research and find songs for a lot of these shows, I kind of realize I'm not, I'm not that big of a metal fan as I thought I was. I love a lot of Metallica. That was kind of my favorite band. Kind of all I'd listen to, really. And I think I've listened to other stuff, and I've got to be in the right mood for it, of course, but I don't think I'm ever really in the right mood for a lot of the stuff that, is kind of deeper down in the iceberg. And that's okay. I think jazz in 90s and, all this kind of stuff, psychedelic, it's good to have this variation. And so what if I'm not as big of a metalhead as I thought I was? I had my time as a metalhead. I'm getting into jazz now, something like that. Because a lot of these songs, especially in this time of year, like I ride my bike and it's like nighttime and it's raining and I'm listening to stuff from Taxi Driver. I was like, wow, this fits the mood a lot more than Creeping Death, or Master of Puppets or something like that. It fits the vibe a lot more. And yeah, there are different genres do a lot better with different times of the year. Like, obviously, Christmas music doesn't work in June unless you're doing the Christmas in June Hallmark special. But besides that, who really listens to Christmas music past Christmas? Maybe a couple of days after. But and these are some things I'll keep getting into, tomorrow night, or not tomorrow night, but next Friday night I'll talk, maybe what's the cutoff for Christmas music and stuff like that. But for now, I'm going to wrap it up. It's been a good little talk. I think we hit about 45 minutes, and that's perfectly fine for me. I figured it beats sitting in the studio doing nothing. Yeah, this episode will be out Saturday by 7, and hopefully it'll be a little better. The mic quality, as for now, is definitely a little better since I'm only using one mic. How we've had to use it previously is we had to have two people sharing one mic, and that's not really practical. But our second mic was working. It's not working anymore. It's kind of got some warbly static to it. I wonder if it'll show up if I do this. Oh. Yeah. Not good. That just came through my headphones, so sorry about that. But it's a little glitchy and monstrous. But hopefully by next week it'll be all fixed and everything will be great. So I'm going to, for the third time, I'm going to wrap this up here. I hope you guys have been having a good night listening to Off the Couch. I will be back next week recording at 4, and that episode will be up that following Saturday at 7 p.m. So check out my Instagram for any updates on my shows or podcasts. I'm thinking of probably transforming some of this into YouTube pretty soon. And I hope you guys have a great night. This has been Andrew Valentine.
For more Off the Couch, tune in to Guy on a Couch, featuring alternative director Andrew Valentine, Thursdays from 9 to 10. Listen and stream on WNYO 88.9.org and 88.9 FM, the Laker Radio Network.